"Happy New Year, Mama. Now get out." Those were the exact words that came out of my son's mouth before he slammed the door in my face. The thud echoed through the entire hallway. I stood there with my suitcase in hand, unable to move. I had traveled 8 hours by bus to be with him on New Year's Eve, and he had just kicked me out like I was a stranger. My name is Viola Banks. I am 60 years old, and this is the night that changed my life forever. I still remember the chill I felt in that hallway. It wasn't just the winter cold, it was the coldness of rejection, of abandonment, of understanding that your own child can look at you as if you were a burden. I had been planning this trip for months. Marcus had been living in the city for 5 years. He had married Tiffany, a woman who never spoke more than 3 consecutive words to me. But I didn't want problems. I just wanted to spend New Year's with my son, see his face, hug him, remind him that his mother still existed. When I arrived at his building that afternoon on December 31st, I was tired, but happy. I brought sweet potato pies I had baked with my own hands, Marcus's favorites since he was a boy, pies wrapped with all the love a mother can give. I rang the doorbell. I heard footsteps. The door opened just a few inches. It was him, my Marcus, but his look was that of someone who didn't recognize me. "Mama, what are you doing here?" "I came to spend New Year's with you, baby." "I called you last week, don't you remember?" He looked back over his shoulder. I heard Tiffany's voice from inside. "Who is it, Marcus?" "It's my mother," he replied without opening the door any wider. There was a silence that lasted barely 3 seconds, but felt eternal to me. Then I heard Tiffany's footsteps approaching. She appeared next to him. She looked me up and down. Her face was pure disdain. "You didn't tell us you were coming," she said with a fake smile. "Yes, I did. I spoke to Marcus last Monday." Marcus looked away. "Mama, it's not a good time. We have plans." "Plans, son? It's New Year's. I thought we could be together." Tiffany crossed her arms. "Viola, we have a dinner reservation at a very exclusive place. You can't just show up like this without warning." Like this, as if I were a problem, as if my presence were a nuisance. "I just want to be with you all for a little while. I don't need to go to any fancy dinner. I can stay here, wait for you, or I can leave early." Marcus sighed. He looked at me with those eyes that used to see me with love and now only showed discomfort. "Mama, honestly, it's not a good time. Marcus, I am your mother. I traveled 8 hours to see you." "Well, you should have called ahead," Tiffany interrupted. "We can't change our plans just like that." I felt something break inside me, but I still tried to stay calm. "Okay, I understand. Can I at least come in for a glass of water? I'm very tired from the trip." Tiffany looked at Marcus. He shook his head. "It's better if you don't, Mama. The house is a mess." A mess. I managed to see behind them. The living room was spotless. It shined. There were fresh flowers on the table, crystal glasses set out, everything ready for a celebration. A celebration I was not part of. "Son, please." "Mama, I already told you it's not a good time." And then Tiffany smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "Viola, maybe you can come back another time with more notice. Today we really can't accommodate you." Accommodate me, as if I were an inconvenient visitor. As if I weren't the woman who gave birth to Marcus, the one who raised him alone after his father abandoned us, the one who worked double shifts for years so he could go to college. I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to defend me, to remember everything we had been through together. But he just looked down. "I'm sorry, Mama. Happy New Year." And he closed the door. I stayed there in front of that closed door, hearing them lock the deadbolt from the inside. I heard their voices drifting away. I heard a laugh, Tiffany's laugh. Then, for the first time in many years, I felt completely alone in the world. I took my suitcase, walked slowly down the stairs, and left the building. Outside, it was getting dark. The streets were starting to fill with happy people, carrying bags of food, bottles of cider, getting ready to celebrate. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know anyone in that city. The last bus back to my town had left an hour ago. I walked aimlessly, my legs trembling. I don't know if it was from the cold or the sadness, probably both. I reached a park. There was a bench beneath a tree. I sat there, opened my suitcase, took out the pies I had made with so much love, looked at them, and wept. I cried in silence because I didn't want the people passing by to see me falling apart. Sometimes we trust too much in those we shouldn't, don't we? The night went on, and the cold became more intense. I was still there, on that bench, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to feel. And then I saw something that would change everything. On the other side of the plaza, a figure was moving slowly. An elderly woman was walking barefoot. Her feet, swollen and dirty, scraped the pavement with every step. She wore an old torn dress, shivering from the cold. People passed her by without looking at her, as if she were invisible. But I saw her. I saw her clearly, and something inside me, despite my own pain, made me get up from that bench. Before I tell you what happened that night with that elderly woman, I need you to understand who I was before that moment. My name is Viola Banks. I was born in a small town in the South where everyone knows everyone and doors are never locked. I grew up with the smell of fresh biscuits and the sound of church bells marking every hour of the day. I married young. I was barely 20 when I met Ray, Marcus's father. He was a handsome man, hard-working, with strong hands and smooth words. We married in June of 1983. I remember that day as if it were yesterday. My white dress, simple and clean, the wildflowers my mother wove into my hair, Ray's look when he saw me walking down the aisle. I thought it would be forever. Marcus was born a year later, in April of 1984. He was the most beautiful baby I had ever seen. He had his father's eyes and my small nose. He cried little. He smiled a lot. From the first day, I knew that boy was my reason for existing. Ray worked in construction. I stayed home taking care of Marcus, cooking, cleaning, waiting for my husband to return every evening. We were poor, yes, but we were happy, or at least I thought we were. The first few years were good. Ray would play with Marcus in the yard after work. He'd put him on his shoulders. He taught him to name the birds that flew over our house: blue jay, sparrow, mockingbird. But things change. People change. When Marcus turned 5, Ray started coming home late. He smelled of beer, sometimes of perfume that wasn't mine. I asked questions. He got angry, shouted at me, told me I was a boring woman, without ambition, without beauty. One morning in November of 1990, I woke up and Ray was gone. His clothes had vanished from the closet. His toothbrush was no longer in the bathroom. On the kitchen table was a crumpled note. "I can't do this life anymore. Sorry." That was it. 6 words. 35 years of my life reduced to 6 words on dirty paper. Marcus asked for his father for months. "Where is Daddy, Mama?" "He went to work far away, baby, but he'll be back soon." I lied. Ray never came back, never called, never asked about his son. He simply disappeared as if we had never existed. I was left alone with a 5-year-old boy and not a dime in my pocket. I had to learn to survive. I got a job at a laundromat. I woke up at 5 in the morning, left Marcus with my mother, and worked until 7 at night. My hands cracked from the soap and hot water. My back ached from leaning over the machines, but I didn't care. I did it for my son. Marcus grew up healthy, grew up smart. He was the best student in his school. The teachers told me he had a brilliant future, that he could go far if he studied. And I clung to that hope. I worked more. I saved every dollar. Sometimes I didn't eat so he could have a new notebook. Sometimes I wore old, mended clothes so he could have shoes without holes. When Marcus finished high school, I cried with pride. When he got into college, I felt all my sacrifice had been worth it. And when he got a scholarship to study business administration at a university in the big city, I felt I had touched the sky. "Mama, I'm going to make you proud," he told me the day he left. "Everything you did for me, I'm going to pay you back 10 times over." I hugged him, kissed his forehead, gave him my blessing. "Just be happy, son. That's all I need." The first few years in the city were good. Marcus called me every week. He told me about his classes, his friends, his dreams. I sent him money when I could, baked goods when he missed home cooking. He graduated with honors in 2006. I traveled for his graduation. I sat in the last row of the auditorium in my nicest dress, crying tears of happiness as he walked across the stage to get his diploma. That day he told me, "Mama, this is for you. Everything I am is because of you." And I felt that everything had been worth it. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every pain. But then Marcus got a good job at a major corporation. He started making money, real money, more than I had seen in my entire life. And the calls started to space out. Once a week turned into once every 2 weeks, then once a month, then almost never. In 2018, Marcus called to tell me he had gotten married. Married? Why didn't you tell me, son? I would have wanted to be there. It was small, Mama. Very private, just the two of us and the judge. His wife's name was Tiffany. She came from a wealthy family. She had studied at private schools, traveled to Europe. She wore clothes from brands I couldn't even pronounce. I met her only once when I went to visit 6 months after their wedding. She greeted me with a polite, distant nod, like you greet a distant acquaintance, not like you greet your husband's mother. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Banks," she said, with a perfect cold smile. Mrs. Banks, not Mom, not Miss Viola. Mrs. Banks, as if I were a stranger. During that visit, which lasted barely 3 days, I noticed things. Tiffany never let me in the kitchen. She said she had already cooked, that I shouldn't worry, but I wanted to cook for my son. I wanted to make his favorite meals. Marcus didn't insist either. He simply smiled and said, "It's okay, Mama, rest. You've worked hard enough in your life." But I didn't want to rest. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to feel I still had a place in my son's life. Before I left, I gave Marcus some money. It was $500, everything I had saved that year. "Here, baby, buy something you need." He looked at the money, then looked at Tiffany. She smiled with disdain. "Mama, we make good money. You don't need to give me cash." "But I want to. Please, take it." Marcus took it, but I saw in his eyes that he was embarrassed. Embarrassed that his wife saw his poor mother giving him money. I went back to my town with a heavy heart. Something had changed in my son. He was no longer the boy who hugged me tight. He was no longer the young man who called to tell me his dreams. He was someone else, someone I no longer recognized. The following years were hard. Calls became scarce, visits non-existent. I tried not to bother them. I didn't want to be the nagging mother-in-law, the intrusive mother. But I missed my son. I missed his voice, his laugh. And then came the year 2024, December. I decided I wouldn't spend another New Year alone. I decided that even if Marcus didn't invite me, I would go see him just to hug him, to remind him his mother still existed. I baked his favorite pies, bought my bus ticket, and traveled those 8 long hours with hope in my heart. I never imagined he would close the door in my face. Now I return to that New Year's Eve, to that bench in the park, to that barefoot elderly woman who would change my life forever. Because sometimes, when everything seems lost, the universe sends you a sign. That elderly woman walked slowly through the plaza. Her bare feet left small, damp marks on the cold pavement. I watched her from my bench, still with the pies in my lap, tears drying on my cheeks. People passed her without looking. Some dodged her with disgust. A young couple crossed the street when they saw her coming. A man in a suit yelled at her, "Get out of the way, old woman." She didn't respond, just kept walking, shivering. I felt something strange in my chest, a mixture of sadness and rage. How could people be so cruel? How could they ignore someone who clearly needed help? And then I remembered. I remembered that I, too, had been ignored that night. My own son had closed the door on me, treated me as if I were invisible. Maybe that's why I could see that woman, because I also knew what it was to be invisible. I got up from the bench, my legs still shaking, but I walked toward her. When I reached her side, I could see her better. She had white hair, tangled and dirty. Her face was wrinkled by years and suffering. Her eyes, though tired, had something I can't explain, a kind of light, of wisdom. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said softly. She stopped and looked at me. Her eyes met mine. "Yes, child?" Her voice was weak but kind. "It's very cold. Do you have a place to stay tonight?" She smiled, a sad smile. "No, child, I have nowhere to go. But don't worry, I'm used to it." Used to it. That phrase broke my heart. I looked at her feet. They were swollen, full of calluses and cuts. I couldn't imagine the pain she felt walking. "Wait here a moment, please." I ran back to my bench, opened my suitcase, and took out my thickest coat, the one I had brought for the city cold. I also took out my comfortable walking shoes. They weren't much, but at least they would protect her from the frozen pavement. I went back to her. "Here, ma'am, please put this on." I held out the coat and the shoes. She looked at me in surprise. "No, child, I can't accept. You're cold too." "I'm fine. Please take them." I insisted until she took the coat, put it on slowly with trembling hands, then bent down to put on the shoes. When she stood up, her eyes were wet. "God bless you, child. Few people even look at me." "What is your name, ma'am?" She hesitated a moment. "You can call me Eleanor." "Nice to meet you, Miss Eleanor. I'm Viola." We stood there in the middle of the plaza while people kept passing around us, getting ready to celebrate. Fireworks were starting to be heard in the distance. It was less than 2 hours to midnight. "And what are you doing here alone, Viola?" Eleanor asked. "A woman like you should be with her family." I felt a lump in my throat. My family doesn't want me near tonight." Eleanor nodded with understanding, as if she knew exactly what I was talking about. "Children sometimes forget where they come from," she said softly. "They go out into the world and get ashamed of their roots." "Do you have children too?" Her look saddened. "I had a daughter. She died 15 years ago. Cancer. Since then, I've been alone." "I'm so sorry." "That's life, child. Some go, others stay, and you learn to keep going." We sat together on the bench. I opened my bag with the pies. "Are you hungry, Miss Eleanor?" Her eyes lit up. "I haven't eaten anything since this morning." "Then we'll eat together. I baked these for my son, but, well, he didn't want them." We unwrapped the pies. They still smelled of sweet potato and cinnamon, filling the cold air. Eleanor took the first bite and closed her eyes. "I haven't eaten something this delicious in years," she said with a cracked voice. "Thank you, Viola. Thank you from my heart." We ate in silence for a few minutes. Around us, families passed by laughing, carrying bags, rushing to get to their homes before midnight. "You know something, Viola?" Eleanor said suddenly. "I've been walking these streets for 5 years. Since I lost my home, I've seen thousands of people pass me by. And do you know how many have stopped to ask if I need anything?" "How many?" 3. You are the third. Only 3 people in 5 years." Sadness invaded me. "People are afraid," Eleanor continued, "afraid of seeing poverty, afraid of seeing suffering, because if they see it, they have to acknowledge that they could be in my place someday. But you aren't scary, Miss Eleanor. You just need help." "Ah, child, what a noble soul you have. That's why I'm sure something good is going to happen to you. Life always rewards good people." I didn't believe it. In that moment, sitting on that frozen bench, after being rejected by my own son, I didn't believe life rewarded anything. But I said nothing. I just kept eating my pie, sharing that moment with a stranger who strangely felt more like family than my own blood. We finished eating. I put the leftover pies in my bag. I thought maybe tomorrow I could sell them, get some money for the return ticket. "Viola, do you have a place to sleep tonight?" Eleanor asked. "No, the last bus already left, and I don't have money for a hotel. I know of a shelter near here, for homeless folks. It's not pretty, but at least you'll be under a roof. And where are you going to sleep?" "There's a doorway, 2 streets down. I usually sleep there. It's protected from the wind." I looked at her. This elderly woman, barefoot until a few minutes ago, homeless, was still thinking about helping me. "No," I told her. "We'll go together to that shelter, both of us." She shook her head. "The shelter only has 3 beds, and on New Year's they are always full. It's better you go. Then we'll sleep in the doorway together." "No, child, you—" "Miss Eleanor, please. You gave me your company when I needed it most. Now let me give you mine." She stared at me, then smiled. A smile full of gratitude and affection. "All right, Viola, we'll go together." We got up from the bench. I took my suitcase. Eleanor adjusted the coat I had given her, and we started walking together toward that doorway she spoke of. The streets were getting emptier. People were already in their homes getting ready for the toast. The 2 of us, on the other hand, were walking toward a cold doorway to spend the night. But something strange was happening. Despite all the pain I felt in my heart, despite Marcus's rejection, despite being homeless that night, I felt at peace because I wasn't alone, because I had found someone who needed me as much as I needed company. We arrived at the doorway. It belonged to an old building with stone columns and a high ceiling. The floor was marble, cold but clean. There were pieces of cardboard stacked in a corner. "This is where I sleep," Eleanor said. "It's not much, but it protects us from the wind." We spread the cardboard on the floor, sat on it. I took out a blanket I had in my suitcase, and we shared it. Fireworks started exploding in the sky. It was 11 at night, 1 hour to the New Year. "Viola, can I ask you a question?" Eleanor said. "Of course, Miss Eleanor." "Why did you help me? No one does. Everyone ignores me. Why didn't you?" I paused to think. Why had I done it? I didn't know exactly. Maybe because I had also been rejected that night. Maybe because I saw my own pain in her. Or maybe simply because it was the right thing to do. "Because you are a mother too," I said finally. "And mothers shouldn't be alone on the street on New Year's." Eleanor said nothing, just took my hand and squeezed it tight. The minutes passed. The fireworks intensified. In the distance, we heard shouts of happiness, people toasting, people hugging. We were there, in that cold doorway, 2 women forgotten by the world, but we weren't alone. And that, in that moment, was enough. Although I didn't know it yet, my life was about to change. Because sometimes when you do something good without expecting anything in return, the universe sees you and rewards you in ways you never imagined. Midnight arrived with a roar. Fireworks lit up the sky like falling stars. Shouts of "Happy New Year" resonated through the city. People hugged their loved ones, toasted with champagne, kissed under the illuminated sky. Eleanor and I looked at each other. She smiled with sadness. "Happy New Year, Viola." "Happy New Year, Miss Eleanor." We didn't have champagne. We didn't have black-eyed peas. We only had our company. And in that moment, it seemed to be enough. The fireworks lasted almost 20 minutes. Afterward, slowly, the noise began to diminish. The streets fell silent again. The city went to sleep. We tried to sleep too. We huddled under the blanket, trying to keep warm, but the cold was biting. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face, his eyes avoiding me, his hand closing the door. "Can't you sleep?" Eleanor asked in the dark. "Not really." "Are you thinking about your son?" "Yes." There was a silence. "You know what the hardest part of all this is, Miss Eleanor?" I said. "It's not that he closed the door on me. It's not that he left me on the street. It's that he couldn't even look me in the eye, as if he was ashamed that I was his mother." Children sometimes get lost, Viola. They get lost in the world, in money, in appearances, and they forget what really matters. I gave him everything. Everything I had. I worked until my hands bled so he could study. I went without eating so he could have new shoes. And now I'm a burden to him. Eleanor sighed. A mother's love is the most selfless in the world, but also the most painful because children grow up and leave, and sometimes when they come back, they aren't the same. Did your daughter make you suffer too? No, my daughter was always good to me until the day she died. But I saw many mothers suffer what you are suffering now. It's more common than you think. And what did those mothers do? Some forgave, others walked away, but they all kept living. Because that's what we mothers do, Viola. We keep going even if they break our hearts. We stay silent. The cold kept penetrating. I huddled more under the blanket. Miss Eleanor, can I ask you something? Of course, child. How did you end up on the street? She took a while to answer. When she did, her voice sounded distant, as if remembering something very painful. I lost my husband 20 years ago. He was a good man, owned a business, made good money. We had a nice home. But when he died, I was left alone with my daughter. She was 30. She lived with me because she was sick. Breast cancer. She paused, took a deep breath. I sold everything I had to pay for her treatment. The house, the furniture, even my wedding ring. I spent every dime trying to save her, but I couldn't. She died in 2009 on her birthday, 35 years old. I am so sorry, Miss Eleanor. When she died, I was left with nothing. No house, no money, no family. I tried to work, but I was old. Nobody gave me a job. I ended up on the street, and I've been here ever since. I listened to her with a tight heart. This woman had lost everything, absolutely everything, and still had the kindness to share her space with me. You are a very strong woman, Miss Eleanor. I'm not strong, Viola. I'm just a survivor. There's a difference. Finally, we fell asleep, or at least I tried to sleep. The cold woke me up every half hour. I listened to Eleanor breathe beside me. Her breathing was irregular, as if she struggled to draw air. The hours passed slowly. When dawn broke, January 1st arrived with a gray, cold sky. I got up aching. My whole body hurt from sleeping on the floor. Eleanor was still sleeping. Her face looked so tired, so fragile. I let her rest. I went out to the street. The city was empty. The streets filled with trash from last night's celebration. Plastic cups, streamers, broken bottles. I walked aimlessly. I needed to think. I needed to decide what I was going to do. The next bus to my town left at 3 in the afternoon. I had to get money for the ticket. I had to go home. But something in my heart ached. A part of me didn't want to leave. I didn't want to accept that my son had rejected me. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that it had all been a misunderstanding. I walked toward Marcus's building. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped that seeing it by day in the sunlight, everything would look different. Maybe I hoped he would come down and tell me he was sorry, invite me in. I arrived at the building. I stood on the sidewalk looking up. Marcus's apartment was on the 3rd floor. The windows had the curtains drawn. I waited there for nearly an hour. People started coming out of the building. Neighbors, families, all looking at me with curiosity, some with disdain. An older lady said to me, "Are you lost, ma'am?" "No, I'm waiting for my son. He lives here." "Oh, on the 3rd floor?" "Yes." She looked me up and down. My wrinkled clothes, my messy hair. It was obvious I had spent the night on the street. "Oh," she said with a dry tone, and walked away without saying more. I kept waiting, but Marcus didn't come out. The curtains of his apartment remained closed. Finally, around 10 in the morning, I gave up. I went back to the doorway where I had left Eleanor. She was already awake. She had folded the blanket and arranged the cardboard. "Good morning, Viola. Where did you go?" "Just for a walk." She stared at me, as if she knew exactly where I had been. "You went to look for your son, didn't you?" I couldn't lie to her. "Yes." "And did you see him?" "He didn't come out." Eleanor sighed. "Viola, listen to me closely. Sometimes we have to accept that the people we love don't want us around anymore. As much as it hurts, as much as we don't understand it, we have to learn to let go." "But he's my son, Miss Eleanor. He's my only son. I can't just let him go." "I'm not telling you to stop loving him. I'm telling you to stop chasing him. If he wants to come back to you, he will. But it has to be his decision. You can't force him." Her words hurt because I knew she was right, but I didn't want to accept it. Not yet. "I have to leave at 3, I told her. "The bus back to my town leaves at that time. Do you have money for the ticket?" "I'm going to sell the leftover pies. I hope to get enough." "I can help you sell them. I know a corner where lots of people pass by." And so we did. We spent the next few hours walking the streets offering the pies. Eleanor, despite her appearance as a homeless woman, had a kind way of talking to people. Some bought out of pity, others because they genuinely liked the look of them. By 1 PM, we had sold all the pies. I counted the money, $300. Just enough for the ticket and some food for the trip. While I recount all this, I think about how many times in life we cling to people who no longer want us. You might wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? Thank you, Miss Eleanor, I said. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to get this money. You're welcome, child. I'm glad I helped. We walked together to the bus station. We arrived at 2:30. My bus left in 30 minutes. I bought my ticket. Then I sat with Eleanor on a bench in the station. Miss Eleanor, I'd like to give you something before I go. I took $100 from my pocket and held it out to her. No, Viola, that money is yours. Please accept it. You helped me a lot, more than you imagine. She took the money with tears in her eyes. God bless you, Viola. You're an angel. I'm not an angel. I'm just a woman who met another good woman at the moment she needed it most. We hugged. I felt her fragile body against mine, her smell of old wool and dust, but also her warmth, her humanity. Take care, Miss Eleanor. You too, Viola. And remember, what you gave that old woman last night, the universe is going to pay you back 10 times over. You'll see. I didn't understand what she meant. I was the only old woman she had met that night. But before I could ask, they announced my bus. I have to go, I said. Go in peace, child. I took my suitcase, headed to the boarding gate. Before entering, I turned one last time to wave goodbye to Eleanor, but she was gone. I searched for her with my eyes all over the station. She had vanished. I felt something strange in my chest, as if I had just lost something important, but I didn't have time to think about it. The bus was about to leave. I got on, found my seat. I sat by the window. As the bus pulled away, I looked one last time toward the station, toward the city that had rejected me, toward the son who had closed the door on me, and I cried in silence all the way back home. But what I didn't know is that my story with Eleanor was just beginning, and that what she had told me was true. The universe was about to return everything I had given in the most unexpected way possible. I arrived in my town at dusk on January 1st. The bus dropped me off at the main square, right in front of the church where I had married Ray so many years ago. Everything looked the same streets, the same trees, the same houses with their dim lights, but I was no longer the same. I walked the 3 blocks to my house. It was a small house, single-story, with faded yellow siding. I had bought it with my life savings after years of renting. I opened the door. The smell of stillness and stale air hit me. No one had been there during the 2 days I was away. I left my suitcase on the floor, sat on the old sofa in the living room, and stayed there in the dark, not wanting to turn on the light. My mind wouldn't stop spinning. I thought of Marcus, of Tiffany, of the door closing in my face. But I also thought of Eleanor, of her sudden disappearance from the station, of her last words. What you gave that old woman last night, the universe is going to pay you back 10 times over. What old woman? What was she talking about? I had only given help to her. No, it made no sense. Eleanor was real. She had eaten with me, slept beside me, sold pies with me. She was a flesh and blood person. But then why had she vanished like that? I shook my head. I was tired. My mind was playing tricks on me. Surely Eleanor simply walked away while I was boarding the bus. That was all. The first days of January passed slowly. I didn't leave my house much. I didn't feel like seeing anyone. My neighbors knocked on my door to wish me a Happy New Year. I thanked them from the doorway and locked myself back in. Miss Pearl, my neighbor all my life, got worried. Viola, are you okay? You look very thin. Have you eaten? Yes, Miss Pearl, I'm fine, just a little tired. Did you go see Marcus for New Year's? That question hurt like a stab wound. Yes. And how is my boy? My boy. Everyone in town remembered Marcus as the good kid who went off to study in the city, the pride of the neighborhood. He's fine. He's very busy. I bet he has plans for you to move in with him, right? Such a good boy isn't going to leave his mother alone here." I didn't answer, just smiled sadly and closed the door. On January 5th, I decided I had to do something. I couldn't stay locked up forever. I needed to work. I needed to distract myself. I went back to the laundromat where I had worked for years. The owner, Mrs. Higgins, welcomed me with open arms. "Viola, so good to see you. Are you coming back to work?" "Yes, Mrs. Higgins, if you still have space for me." "There's always space for you. Start tomorrow if you want." And so I did. I went back to my usual routine. I woke up at 5 in the morning, went to the laundromat, washed other people's clothes for 8 hours, came home tired, ate something simple, went to sleep. But the nights were difficult, because at night, when everything was silent, my mind wouldn't leave me in peace. I thought of Marcus. I wondered if he was okay, if he missed me even a little, if he regretted closing the door on me. Part of me wanted to call him, wanted to hear his voice, but another part, the part Eleanor had awakened in me, told me not to, that if he wanted to talk to me, he had to make the first move. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then 4. February 15th arrived, my birthday. I was turning 61. No one remembered, or at least no one called. Miss Pearl brought me a piece of cake left over from her grandson's party, but that was all. Marcus didn't call, not even a text message, not even a happy birthday, Mama. That night I cried myself to sleep. I felt lonelier than ever. But then something strange started to happen. On February 18th, 3 days after my birthday, I was working at the laundromat when an elegant woman walked in. She wore a gray tailored suit, heels, and carried a leather briefcase. "Mrs. Viola Banks?" she asked. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "My name is Catherine Sterling. I am an attorney. I need to speak with you. It is an urgent matter." My heart raced. An attorney? What could a lawyer want with me? What happened? Is it Marcus? Is he okay? "This isn't about your son, Mrs. Banks. It's about something else. Could we speak in private?" I looked at Mrs. Higgins. She nodded. "Go, Viola, I'll cover you here." We left the laundromat. The lawyer took me to a nearby diner. We sat at a booth in the back. "Mrs. Banks, I am here representing a client who prefers to remain anonymous for the moment. This person has asked me to find you specifically." "Me? Why?" "My client was present the night of December 31st in the city. She saw what you did." My blood ran cold. "What did she see?" "She saw how you helped an elderly woman who was on the street. You gave her your coat, your shoes, shared your food with her. My client was very impressed by your kindness." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Someone had seen all that? I just did what any decent person would do." "No, Mrs. Banks, just any person did not do it. My client passed through that plaza for over an hour that night. She saw dozens of people walk past that woman without even looking at her. You were the only one who stopped, the only one who offered help." "And who is your client?" The lawyer smiled. "I cannot reveal her identity yet, but she has asked me to give you this." She pulled a white envelope from her briefcase and handed it to me. I took it with trembling hands and opened it. Inside was a check, and when I saw the amount, I almost fainted. $10,000. This must be a mistake," I stammered. "It is not a mistake. My client wants to compensate you for your kindness, and this is just the beginning." "The beginning? I don't understand." "My client has a proposal for you, but first she wants to know you better. She wants to make sure you are the right person." "Right person for what?" The lawyer leaned forward. "Mrs. Banks, how tied are you to this town? How tied are you to your current life?" The question took me by surprise. "It's my home. I've lived here all my life." "But do you have anything that truly binds you? Close family, important commitments?" I thought of Marcus, but Marcus didn't want me near. I thought of my neighbors, but none of them were truly close. I thought of my job, but it was just a job anyone could do. I didn't answer right away. Finally, "I don't have anything that really ties me." The lawyer smiled. Perfect. Then my client has asked me to ask you a very important question. Would you be willing to move to the city to start a new life? Move? Why? My client needs company. She is an older woman without family, and after seeing your kindness that night, she believes you would be the perfect companion. Company? Like a nurse? No. Like a friend, a confidant, someone to share her home with. My head was spinning. None of this made sense. And who exactly is your client? Why so much secrecy? She is a woman of 75 years, a very wealthy widow. She has no children or close relatives, and after seeing your act of kindness that night, she decided she wanted to meet you 75 years old. Widow. No children. Something in my memory stirred. A conversation, a soft voice in the darkness of a cold doorway. Eleanor, I whispered. The lawyer raised her eyebrows. So you already met. Excellent. That makes things easier. But Eleanor was on the street, barefoot, homeless. No, Mrs. Banks, Eleanor was not homeless. Eleanor was testing you. Testing me? My client does this every year. She disguises herself as a homeless person and walks the streets during the holidays. She observes how people react to her, how many help her, how many ignore her. It is her way of finding genuinely good people in a world full of indifference. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Eleanor had been a test. Everything had been a test, and I passed it. Not only did you pass it, Mrs. Banks, you were the only person in 5 years who offered her help without expecting anything in return. The only one who shared the little she had. The only one who treated her with dignity. Tears began to roll down my cheeks. I didn't do anything special. I just saw someone who needed help. Exactly. And that is what makes you special. Because most people see suffering and look the other way. But you didn't. You stopped. And now my client wants to reward you. I don't need a reward. I didn't do it for that. I know. And that is exactly why you deserve this reward. The lawyer pulled a folder from her briefcase. My client has asked me to offer you the following: a home in the city, in her own house, a private suite, fully furnished, meals included, and a monthly salary of $5,000 to keep her company. $5,000. That was more than I made in 4 months at the laundromat. Why? Why would she do all this for me? Because she is alone. Because despite all her money, she has no one. And because in you, she saw something she hasn't seen in anyone else. A genuinely kind heart. I looked at the check in my hands. $10,000. Money that could change my life. I need to think, I said finally. Of course, take your time, but not too long. My client is anxious to meet you again, this time in her true identity. The lawyer stood up, gave me her card. Call me when you have made your decision. My number is there. And she left, leaving me alone with a check for $10,000 and a decision that would change my life forever. That night, I couldn't sleep. I turned over and over everything that had happened. Eleanor, the test, the offer. Part of me wanted to accept, wanted to get out of this town, wanted to start over, wanted to feel my life had a purpose beyond washing other people's clothes. But another part was afraid. Afraid of the unknown, afraid of leaving behind everything I knew. And then I thought of Marcus. If I went to the city, I would be closer to him. Maybe I could see him once in a while. Maybe we could fix things. Or maybe not. Maybe it was time to stop living for my son and start living for myself. I spent 3 days thinking. 3 days where I barely ate, barely slept, just spun the same question over and over. Should I accept? On February 20th, I finally made a decision. I called the lawyer. Miss Sterling, this is Viola Banks. Mrs. Banks, good to hear from you. Have you made your decision? I took a deep breath. I accept. I want to meet your client. I want to hear what she has to say. I heard a smile in her voice. Excellent. My client will be delighted. Can you travel to the city this Friday? Yes, I can. Perfect. I will email you the bus tickets, premium coach, and a chauffeur will be waiting for you at the station to take you to my client's residence. Residence? Yes. My client lives in an exclusive area of the city, the Gold Coast. You'll see, Mrs. Banks, your life is about to change. We hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, still not believing what was happening. Mrs. Higgins gave me the day off when I explained I had to travel. I didn't tell her where or why, just that it was something important. On Friday, February 23rd, I got on the luxury bus. It was the first time in my life I traveled like that. The seats were leather, huge, with room to stretch my legs. They gave you water and snacks for free. There was Wi-Fi. I felt out of place. The other passengers wore suits, carried laptops, expensive phones. I wore my only decent dress, the same one I had worn to Marcus's graduation so many years ago. But I tried not to think about that. I tried to enjoy the journey. We arrived in the city at 2 p.m. At the station, just as the lawyer promised, there was a chauffeur waiting for me, an older man in a black uniform holding a sign with my name. Mrs. Viola Banks? Yes, that's me. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Arthur. I'm here to take you to Mrs. Vance. He led me to a black car, big, shiny, a Mercedes. I had never been in a car like that. The interior smelled of new leather. Arthur drove for 20 minutes through streets I didn't know. We passed wide avenues filled with trees, modern buildings, fancy restaurants, stores with brands I had only seen on TV. Finally, we entered a residential area. The streets were clean, quiet. The houses were enormous, with perfect gardens and high iron fences. Almost there, Mrs. Banks, Arthur said. My heart beat faster and faster. Suddenly, I was scared. What was I doing? Why had I accepted to come? I didn't know these people. I knew nothing about them. But it was too late to turn back. The car stopped in front of a house. No, a mansion. It was 3 stories, painted white limestone, with huge windows and a garden that looked like something out of a magazine. Arthur opened the door for me. Go ahead, ma'am. They are waiting for you. I stepped out of the car with trembling legs. I walked toward the front door. Before I could ring the bell, the door opened, and there she was, Eleanor. But it wasn't the Eleanor I had met on the street. This Eleanor wore an elegant beige dress. Her white hair was perfectly styled. She wore a pearl necklace and discreet earrings. She looked different, but her eyes were the same. Those wise eyes full of kindness. Viola, she said with a smile, welcome to my home. I didn't know what to say. I stood there with my mouth open, trying to process what I was seeing. Eleanor approached and hugged me. Forgive me for the deception, child, but I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That good people still exist in this world, and you proved to me that they do. She took me by the hand and led me inside. The house was even more impressive on the inside. Marble floors, elegant furniture, paintings on the walls, a winding staircase leading to the second floor. Come, sit down. We have much to talk about. We sat in the living room. A maid brought us coffee and cookies. I couldn't stop looking around. It was like being in a dream. I suppose you have many questions, Eleanor said. Why? Was the only thing I could say. Why pretend to be someone you're not? Eleanor sighed. Because I have learned over the years that money changes people. When people know you have money, their treatment of you changes. You no longer know if they like you for who you are or for what you have. That is why, every year during the holidays, I disguise myself and go out on the street to see how people treat me when they think I have nothing. But that's sad. It is, but necessary. Do you know how many people have helped me in the last 5 years I've been doing this? Your lawyer said 3. Exactly 3, in 5 years. You are the third and the only one who shared the little she had without thinking twice. I didn't do it for money or a reward. I did it because it was the right thing. I know. And that is why you are here. Eleanor took a sip of her coffee. Let me tell you who I really am. My full name is Eleanor Vance. I am 75 years old. I have been a widow for 20 years. My husband, Harrison Vance, owned a national chain of hardware stores. When he died, he left me everything: the company, the properties, the investments. I became a very, very wealthy woman." She paused. "But money doesn't give you happiness, Viola. It gives you comfort, yes. Security, yes. But it doesn't give you love. It doesn't give you company. It doesn't give you a purpose." "And your daughter. You told me you had a daughter." Eleanor's eyes grew wet. "Yes, Chloe, my only daughter. What I told you that night was true. She died of cancer 15 years ago. She was 35. I sold what I could. Well, spent millions on her treatment. But it didn't work. She died in my arms on July 26th, 2009. I am so sorry. Since then, I have been alone, completely alone. I have no siblings. My parents died years ago. I have no nieces or close cousins. I only have employees, lawyers, accountants, people who work for me but don't know me, really know me." Eleanor looked me directly in the eyes. "That is why I'm looking for you, Viola, because when I saw you help me that night, I saw something I hadn't seen in years: genuine kindness, real compassion. And I thought, this is the person I want by my side." "But Miss Eleanor, I'm nobody special. I'm a simple woman from a small town. I don't know anything about this world of yours." "Precisely why I want you here. Because you don't see me as money. You see me as a person. Like that old woman shivering in the cold to whom you gave your coat without thinking of the cost." She pulled an envelope from the pocket of her dress. "Viola, I want to make you an offer, and I want you to think about it carefully before answering." I opened the envelope. Inside were several documents. "I offer you to live here with me in this house. You will have your own room, your own bathroom, 3 meals a day, clothes if you need them, and a monthly salary of $5,000, not 4, as Catherine told you. I asked her to say less so as not to scare you." $5,000. That was more money than I had seen together in my entire life. "The only thing I ask in return is your company. That you have breakfast with me, watch movies with me, tell me about your life, that we do together what friends do. Because that is what I want, Viola, a friend, not an employee, a friend." Tears started running down my face. "But Miss Eleanor, I don't deserve all this. I only helped you that night because you are a good person, and good people deserve good things. Life hasn't treated you well, Viola. I saw it in your eyes that night. I saw the pain, the abandonment, the loneliness. We were 2 lonely women sitting in a cold doorway with no one wanting us." "It's true," I whispered, "but you don't have to be alone anymore. I don't want to be either. We can take care of each other. We can be the family we both lost." I stood up, walked to the window, looked at the perfect garden, the fountain glistening, the pale blue sky over the city. I thought of my house, the town, the laundromat, my endless days washing clothes, my lonely nights in front of the TV, my forgotten birthdays. And then I thought of Marcus, how he had closed the door on me, how he hadn't called on my birthday, how he had treated me like a burden. And something inside me broke, but not from sadness, from liberation. I turned back to Eleanor. "I accept," I said. "I accept your offer." Eleanor smiled, stood up, walked toward me, and hugged me tight. "Thank you, Viola. Thank you for giving this lonely old woman a chance. Thank you, Miss Eleanor, for seeing me, for seeing my heart when no one else did." We stayed hugged for what seemed like an eternity. 2 women who had lost everything. 2 women who had found each other at the exact moment they needed it most. "When do you want to move?" Eleanor asked. "I need to go back to my town, pack my things, say goodbye to some neighbors, quit my job. Give me a week." "Take the time you need. Arthur will take you back to the bus station today, and will come pick you up when you are ready. Does that sound good?" "Yes, thank you." Eleanor showed me what would be my room. It was on the 2nd floor. It was huge, bigger than my whole house in Clayton. It had a king-size bed with fluffy white sheets, a carved wooden armoire, a desk by the window, a private bathroom with a tub and separate shower. "This will be your room," Eleanor said. your private space. You can decorate it however you want, bring your things, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like a luxury hotel suite. It's too much. It's not too much. It's what you deserve. And Viola, one more thing. She handed me a thicker envelope. Inside is $20,000 in cash for you to settle your affairs in town, to pay any debts you have, to buy new clothes if you need them, for whatever you want. Miss Eleanor, I can't accept so much money. Yes, you can, and you will. Because I want to do it, because I can do it, and because you deserve it. I took the envelope with shaking hands. I had never held $20,000 in my hands. I had never imagined I would. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me one thing. What? That you will be happy here. That you will allow yourself to be happy. That you will leave the pain behind and open your heart to this new life. I looked her in the eyes and saw something in her I hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. I promise, Miss Eleanor. That afternoon, Arthur took me back to the bus station. Eleanor hugged me before I left. I'll be waiting for you, Viola. This house will finally have life again. During the whole trip back, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in years, I felt my life had a purpose, that someone wanted me near, that I mattered. But there was something that still hurt, a thought I couldn't shake. Should I tell Marcus? Should I tell him I was moving to the city? Would he even care? Part of me wanted to call him, wanted to say, "Look, son, my life changed. I'm not that poor mother who embarrassed you anymore. Now I live with a rich woman. Now I have money." But another part, the stronger part, told me no, that if Marcus had been capable of closing the door on me in my worst moment, he didn't deserve to know about me in my best moment. And that part won. I decided I wouldn't tell him anything, that I would move to the city without warning him, that I would start my new life without him. Because sometimes loving someone means knowing when to walk away. It means understanding you can't force anyone to love you. And it means having the dignity to keep going, even if it hurts. I arrived in my town that night, entered my house, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. My life was about to change for good, and I was ready. The next 7 days were a whirlwind of emotions. I spent all of Saturday, February 24th, organizing my life, deciding what I would take and what I would leave behind. I didn't have much. Old clothes, some books, photographs, keepsakes. Everything fit into 2 medium suitcases. On Sunday, I went to speak with Mrs. Higgins. "Mrs. Higgins, I need to quit." She looked at me surprised. "Quit? Why, Viola? Did something happen?" "No, nothing bad happened. On the contrary, I'm moving to the city. I got an opportunity." "An opportunity? What kind of opportunity?" I didn't want to give her too many details. I didn't want word to spread through the whole town before I left. "I'm going to work as a companion for an older lady. They offer room and board, and the pay is good." Mrs. Higgins nodded slowly. "I understand. Well, I'm going to miss you, Viola. You've been a good worker all these years." "Thank you, Mrs. Higgins. I'm going to miss you too." She paid me what she owed me for the last week, $1,200, including my accumulated vacation pay. Money that now seemed so little compared to what Eleanor had given me. On Monday, I went to the bank, opened a savings account for the first time in my life. I deposited the $20,000 Eleanor had given me. The bank teller looked at me with surprise when she saw the amount. "Where did you get so much money, Mrs. Banks?" "It's a gift," I replied simply. I gave no more explanations. I didn't have to. On Thursday, February 29th, I started saying goodbye to my neighbors. Miss Pearl cried when I told her I was going to the city. "Alone, Viola? That's very dangerous. A woman your age." "I'll be fine, Miss Pearl. I'm going to be with a good family. Don't worry about me." "And Marcus? Does he know you're going?" That question hurt. "No, and I'm not going to tell him." "But Viola, he's your son. You should—" My son closed the door in my face, Miss Pearl. He didn't call me on my birthday. He hasn't asked about me in 2 months. I think he won't mind much if I go or stay." Miss Pearl said nothing more, just hugged me. On Friday, March 1st, Arthur arrived for me. I put my 2 suitcases in the car. I took one last look at my little yellow house, at the street where I had lived all my life, at the town that had seen me born, marry, raise my son, grow old. I felt no nostalgia, only relief. It was a strange feeling, as if I were taking off a weight I had carried for years. The trip to the city took the same hours as always, but this time was different. This time I wasn't going to beg for my son's love. This time I was going toward a new life, a life I had chosen. We arrived at Eleanor's house at sunset. She was waiting for me at the door with a huge smile. "Viola, welcome to your new home." She hugged me tight. And in that hug, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, that someone was genuinely happy to see me. "Come, your room is ready. And I prepared dinner, your favorite, fried chicken and collard greens. Well, the cook made it, but I requested it specially." We went up to my room. It was exactly as I remembered it. Big, luminous, perfect. Arthur brought up my suitcases. "Take your time to settle in," Eleanor said. "When you're ready, I'll wait for you downstairs for dinner." I stood alone in that enormous room. I opened my suitcases, started unpacking my clothes. They looked so old, so worn compared to the elegance of that room. But I didn't care. It was my clothing, my things, my life. I hung everything in the closet. I put my photographs on the desk. One of Marcus when he was a boy, another of my wedding with Ray, one of my mother who had died 10 years ago. I looked at Marcus's photograph for a long time, his boyish smile, his eyes full of innocence. When had he changed? When had he stopped being that boy who loved me unconditionally? I put the photograph in a drawer. I didn't want to see it every day. I didn't want to remember the pain every morning. I went down to dinner. Eleanor had set the table with elegant china, cloth napkins, crystal goblets. The food steamed on a porcelain platter. "Sit, please," she said. "We eat together." She asked me 1,000 questions about my life, my town, my memories. I answered everything, and for the first time in a long time, I felt someone was really interested in what I had to say. "Tomorrow is Saturday," Eleanor said. "I thought we could go shopping. You need new clothes." "Oh, Miss Eleanor, don't say no. It's part of the deal. You have already done too much for me. It's not enough. It will never be enough to compensate for your kindness that night." The following days were like a dream. Eleanor took me to stores I had only seen in magazines. She bought me dresses, shoes, blouses, slacks. I protested in every store, but she paid me no mind. "Let me spoil you, Viola. It's been so long since I've had someone to spoil." She also took me to a beauty salon. They cut my hair, pressed it, dyed it to cover the gray, gave me a facial. When I saw myself in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I looked different, younger, more alive. 2 weeks passed, then 3, then a month. My life with Eleanor was quiet, but happy. We had breakfast together every morning. She told me stories of her life with Harrison, her late husband, of her travels around the world, of her daughter Chloe. I told her about my childhood, my mother, how it had been raising Marcus alone. We became friends, true friends. There was no class difference between us, just 2 women sharing their lives, but there was something that made me uncomfortable. Every time Eleanor introduced me to someone, she introduced me as her companion. I knew technically I was, but the word made me feel lesser, as if I were a servant. One day, in mid-April, I gathered the courage to tell her. "Miss Eleanor, can I ask you a favor?" "Of course, Viola, anything." Could you introduce me as your friend instead of your companion? I know I work for you, but—" Eleanor interrupted me, taking my hand. "Viola, forgive me. You are absolutely right. You are not my employee. You are my friend, my family, and that is how I will introduce you from now on." I smiled. Finally, I felt completely comfortable in my new life. But then, one day in May, everything changed. It was a Sunday, May 12th. Mother's Day. Eleanor and I had gone to brunch at an elegant restaurant near her house in the Gold Coast. We were eating Eggs Benedict and drinking coffee when I heard a familiar voice. "Mama?" My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. I turned slowly, and there he was, Marcus. He was standing a few feet from our table, eyes wide with surprise. Next to him was Tiffany, looking at me with the same disdain as always. "Marcus," I whispered. He approached our table. He looked me up and down, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I was wearing one of the dresses Eleanor had bought me. A wine-colored dress, elegant but discreet. My hair was freshly styled. I wore a silver necklace Eleanor had given me. I didn't look like the poor, worn-out woman who had knocked on his door on New Year's. I looked different. What are you doing here?" Marcus asked. "I live here," I replied simply. "You live here? In the city? Since when?" "Since 2 months ago." I could see the shock on his face and something else. Guilt? Shame? "And why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you call me?" The question filled me with indignation. Why hadn't I called him? Seriously? He was asking that? And you? Why didn't you call me, Marcus? Why didn't you call me on my birthday? Why haven't you called me in 4 months? He looked down. Tiffany stepped closer, looking at me with scorn. "Viola, what a surprise to see you here. This restaurant is quite exclusive for someone like you." Eleanor, who had been silent this whole time, spoke for the first time. "Excuse me, who are you to speak to Viola like that?" Tiffany looked at her, surprised by the tone. "I'm her daughter-in-law. And who are you?" "I am Eleanor Vance, and Viola is my best friend. She lives with me in my house." Tiffany's face changed. She recognized the name Vance. Everyone in the business circles of the city knew that name, Mrs. Vance, the hardware heiress. Tiffany turned pale. She looked at Marcus, then at me. I didn't know you knew such important people." Eleanor smiled coldly. "Viola is more than important. She is one of the most noble people I have ever met. Something you two clearly cannot appreciate." Marcus intervened. "Mama, we need to talk, please." I looked at him. I saw in his eyes something I hadn't seen in years. Fear of losing me. But not out of love, but because now I had something he wanted. Connections. Access to a world he aspired to. "We have nothing to talk about, Marcus." "Please, Mama. I know things haven't been good between us, but—" "Haven't been good?" I interrupted him. "Marcus, you slammed the door in my face on New Year's Eve. You left me on the street with nowhere to go. And now you want to talk?" I'm sorry. Tiffany and I had plans." "So what? Your plans were more important than your mother? More important than the woman who sacrificed her entire life for you?" People in the restaurant started to look at us. Tiffany turned red with embarrassment. "Viola, please don't make a scene," she whispered. "A scene? You made me feel like a nuisance, like garbage. And now that you see I'm with someone important, now you want to talk to me?" Eleanor stood up. "I think it's time to go, Viola." I stood up too, grabbed my purse. "Mama, wait!" Marcus said, grabbing my arm. I shook off his grip. "You had 4 months to call me, Marcus. 4 months to apologize, to ask how I was, but you didn't. And now it's too late. Don't say that. You're my mother. You'll always be my mother. I am your mother. But you stopped being my son that night." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. But the moment I said them, I knew they were true. I saw the pain on his face, but I didn't feel satisfaction, only liberation. Eleanor and I left the restaurant. Arthur was waiting outside. We got in the car. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if Marcus was following us with his eyes. I didn't want to know if he regretted it. The whole way home we didn't speak. Eleanor just took my hand and squeezed it tight. When we got to the house, she finally spoke. "Are you okay?" "Yes," I replied. "I'm fine. For the first time in a long time, I am really fine." And it was true, because even though I had lost my son, I had gained something more important. My dignity, my peace, my freedom. That night I cried. I cried for the son I had lost, for the boy I had raised with so much love who was now a stranger, For the years I had wasted waiting for his approval, but I also cried with relief, because finally I had closed that chapter of my life. Finally, I had let go. And even though it hurt, it also felt good. Several days passed after the encounter with Marcus. I kept up my routine with Eleanor, but something had changed inside me. I no longer felt that weight in my chest, that constant anxiety to be a good mother, to be enough for my son. I had freed myself. On May 18th, Eleanor called me to her study. It was a place I rarely entered. It was on the first floor, full of books, documents, old photographs. There was a large mahogany desk, and behind it a huge portrait of Harrison, her late husband. "Sit down, Viola. I need to talk to you about something important." I sat across from her. Her expression was serious, but not sad, determined. "Did something bad happen, Miss Eleanor?" "No, nothing bad. On the contrary, I want to talk to you about something I've been thinking about for weeks." She pulled a binder from one of the desk drawers. "Viola, I am 75 years old. I've already lived longer than I expected, and although I feel well now, I know I'm not going to live forever." "No one does, Miss Eleanor. Don't say that." "It's not pessimism, child. It's realism, and that's why I need to speak to you about my will." My heart sped up. "Your will?" "Yes. As you know, I have no family. My daughter died. My husband died. I have no siblings or nephews. When I die, everything I have will be left to no one." "But surely you have friends, acquaintances?" Eleanor smiled sadly. "Friends, Viola. When you have money, you never know who is really your friend and who is just around for interest. That's why I do those tests every year, to find genuine people." "And the other two people who helped you, what happened to them?" "The first was a young man, 22 years old. I offered him the same thing as you, but when he found out how much money I had, he started asking for loans, investments, said he wanted to do business with me. I had to cut him off. The second was a woman of 40. She seemed sincere at first, but then I discovered she was telling her whole family everything. They were planning... Well, I don't even want to think about it. I had to cut her off, too." "That's terrible." "It is. But you, Viola, you have been with me for 2 months and haven't asked for anything, nothing more than your salary, which you earn with interest just by your company. You haven't tried to manipulate me. You haven't brought your family to ask for favors. You haven't—" She paused, took a deep breath. "You haven't done what your son tried to do last week." I froze. "What?" "Marcus came to look for me 3 days ago. He came alone without his wife, came here to this house. Yes, I told Arthur to let him in because I wanted to see what he wanted, and I already imagined it." "What did he want?" Eleanor opened the binder, took out her phone. "I recorded our conversation without him knowing. I want you to hear it, but I warn you, it's going to hurt." She pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the room. "Mrs. Vance, thank you so much for seeing me." "You're welcome, Marcus. Tell me, to what do I owe this visit?" "Well, I want to apologize for how I behaved at the restaurant. It wasn't my intention to disrespect you." "You didn't disrespect me. You disrespected your mother." A silence. "You're right, and that's why I'm here. I want to fix things with my mom, but she won't answer my calls." "And you think I can help you with that?" "Well, yes. I thought maybe you could talk to her, convince her to give me another chance." Another pause, then Eleanor's voice, cold. "Marcus, let me ask you a question. Why do you want to fix things with your mother now? Because you really miss her? Or because you realized she has access to my social circle?" A long silence. Too long. I miss her. She's my mother." "Your mother went 4 months without hearing from you, Marcus. 4 months without a call. You didn't even call her on her birthday. And now you miss her?" "I was busy with work, with Tiffany." "Too busy to call your mother, but not too busy to come to my house to ask me to intervene for you. Mr. Banks, And let me guess, you also came to ask about my relationship with your mother, to see if there is any business opportunity, any investment, any way to benefit from our friendship? Absolute silence. Your silence says it all, Marcus. Mrs. Vance, with all due respect, my mother is a simple woman from a small town. She isn't used to this world. She could be vulnerable. There are people who could take advantage of her. Eleanor's laugh sounded dry, humorless. People like you? No, not me. Marcus, I'm going to tell you something that perhaps no one has ever told you in your life. Your mother is an extraordinary woman. She has more emotional intelligence in her little finger than you have in your whole body. And no, she is not vulnerable. She is strong, stronger than you. That is for sure. I just want to protect her. You don't want to protect her. You want to control her. You want access to what she has now. My friendship, my connections, my money. But let me tell you something, boy. Your mother doesn't need your protection, and she definitely doesn't need your fake repentance. Mrs. Vance, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You are an ungrateful son who only cares about his mother when it suits him, and I am not going to let you hurt her again. I have a right to see my mother. You have a right. But she has a right to decide if she wants to see you, and so far, she has decided no, and I support her completely. This isn't going to stay like this. Is that a threat, Marcus? No, just saying she's my mother. Legally. Legally, you have no power over her. She is an adult woman in full possession of her faculties, so I suggest you leave my house and don't come back. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not closing the door sooner, just like you closed the door on her on New Year's. Footsteps, a door closing, end of recording. I was shaking. Tears ran down my face uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Viola. I know it was hard to hear that. He just wants your money. He doesn't want me. I know, child, and that's why I showed it to you, so you have no doubts, so you know you made the right decision distancing yourself from him. I covered my face with my hands. I cried not from sadness, but from rage, from disappointment, from a pain so deep it had no name. How could I raise someone like that? I whispered. At what moment did he become this? Eleanor got up from her chair, knelt in front of me, and took my hands. Viola, listen to me. You are not to blame. You did everything you could. You gave him love, education, values, but people choose who they want to be, and your son chose money over love. That is not your fault. But he is my son, my only son, and he always will be. But that doesn't mean you have to accept his mistreatment. Sometimes the greatest love you can give is to walk away. We stayed like that for a long time, her kneeling in front of me, holding my hands, me crying, letting out all the accumulated pain. When I finally calmed down, Eleanor sat back down. That is why I want to talk to you about my will, because I have made a decision. She opened the binder again, took out several documents. Viola, I want to name you my sole heir. The world stopped. What? I want to leave you everything. This house, my properties, my investments, the company stocks, everything. No, Miss Eleanor. That is too much. I can't. Yes, you can. And you deserve it. In these 2 months, you have given me something I didn't have. True family, true company, unconditional love. And I want to make sure that when I am no longer here, you have everything you need to live well for the rest of your life. But, Miss Eleanor, I don't need your money. I just need your friendship. I know, and that is exactly why I am giving it to you. Because I know you aren't looking for it. Because I know you won't squander it. Because I know you will use it to do good. I shook my head. I can't accept this. It's your life, your work. It's my legacy, and I want it to be yours. But there is a condition. What condition? That when I die, you use part of that money to help women like you. Older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a new opportunity. I want you to create a foundation in honor of my daughter, Chloe. I was speechless. Miss Eleanor, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything now. Think about it. Talk to my lawyers. Understand well what this means. And then, if you still want to reject it, I will respect your decision. But please, think about it. During the next few days, I met with Catherine, the lawyer. She explained everything to me, the magnitude of Eleanor's fortune, the properties, the investments. It was more money than I could imagine. Mrs. Banks, do you understand that this would make you one of the wealthiest women in the state? Yes, and that terrifies me. Why? Because I am a simple woman. From the country. I don't know anything about business, investments, all this. You don't have to know. That is what we are here for. The lawyers, the accountants, the managers. You only have to make the final decisions, and I will be here to guide you in everything. And if I ruin it all, you won't ruin it. Mrs. Vance has seen in you something that is worth more than any college degree. Integrity, kindness, common sense. With that, and with the right team, you will be fine. On May 26th, I made my decision. I told Eleanor I accepted. She cried with happiness. Thank you, Viola. Thank you for giving me peace. Now I know my legacy will be in good hands. We signed the papers that same day. Catherine took care of everything. The will was registered. I was officially the sole heir of Eleanor Vance. But something else happened that day. Something I didn't expect. Eleanor handed me another document. What is this? It is a bank transfer of $200,000 to your name. $200,000? Why? Because I want you to have it now while I am still alive. I want to see you enjoy it. I want you to do whatever you want with it. Travel, buy what you need, or simply save it. It is yours. No conditions. Miss Eleanor, this is too much. It's not too much. It's fair. And Viola, I want you to do something with part of that money. What? I want you to send money to Marcus. I stood paralyzed. What? Why would I do that? Because despite everything he has done to you, he is still your son, and I know a part of you still worries about him. Send him money, $10,000, without explanation. Just send it, and then close that chapter forever. But after what I heard on that recording, precisely because of that, send him money so he sees you don't do it out of necessity, that you do it because you are his mother, and that even when he doesn't deserve it, you continue to be a better person than him. That, Viola, is moral revenge, the only revenge worth having. I thought about it all night, and finally, I decided to do it. On May 28th, I transferred $10,000 to Marcus. No message, no explanation, just the money. He called me 2 hours later. I didn't answer. He sent me a text. Mama, what is this? Where did you get this money? I didn't reply. He sent another. Mama, please, we need to talk. Forgive me. I didn't reply either. Finally, he texted. I love you, Mama, and I am very sorry for everything that happened. I read it. I felt something in my heart, but it wasn't love. It was pity. Pity for my son, who had chosen money above all else, who only knew how to say I love you when it suited him. I blocked his number, and with that gesture, I closed the chapter of Marcus in my life forever. That night, Eleanor and I had dinner together. We toasted with red wine. To new lives, she said. To second chances, I replied. To women who get back up. To those who choose their dignity over pain. We clinked glasses, and in that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. I had lost my son, but I had gained a family, a mother who hadn't birthed me, but who had chosen me, and I had chosen her. And that, in this cruel world, was more valuable than any blood tie. The months followed their course. June came with soft rains, July with intense heat, August with clear skies. And I continued living with Eleanor, building a life I never imagined possible. But the world has mysterious ways of serving justice. And even though I had decided to distance myself from Marcus, the universe hadn't finished with him. It was a Saturday in September, the 14th to be exact, when I found out what had happened. Catherine came to visit us. She had a strange expression on her face, a mix of concern and satisfaction. "Mrs. Banks, I need to tell you something. It's about your son." My heart jumped. "Did something happen to him?" "Depends on how you look at it. Marcus lost his job." "What? When?" 2 weeks ago. He was fired for misconduct. Apparently, he tried to use Mrs. Vance's name to secure contracts for his firm. He said he had connections with the Vance family. His boss investigated, discovered it was a lie, and fired him. I covered my mouth with my hand. "But that's not all," Catherine continued. "Tiffany left him. She found out Marcus had spent their savings trying to keep up appearances. Expensive dinners, designer clothes, a new car they couldn't afford. When she discovered the debts, she packed her bags and went back to her parents. She filed for divorce a week ago." I felt something strange. Not joy, awe. The universe really was collecting its debts. And where is he now? He had to leave his apartment, couldn't pay the rent. He's living with a friend, or so I was told. Eleanor, who had been listening in silence, spoke. "Life has a way of teaching us lessons, doesn't it? Your son rejected his mother when she had nothing, and now that he has nothing, he is left alone." She was right. Marcus had closed the door on me when I needed him most. And now, when he needed it, he had no one. "Has he tried to contact you?" Catherine asked. "I blocked his number months ago. I don't know if he's tried." "Probably. His pride is costing him dearly." Weeks passed. October arrived with chilly winds. And then, something unexpected happened. It was October 22nd. Eleanor and I were in the garden having tea when Arthur approached. "Mrs. Vance, there is a young man at the gate. He says he is Mrs. Banks's son, says he needs to speak with her, that it is urgent." My heart raced. "Tell him to leave," I said immediately. "Wait, Viola," Eleanor said. "Maybe you should listen to him. Just once. So you aren't left wondering. I don't have any doubts. But he does. Let him in. I will be here with you. If he says anything inappropriate, Arthur will remove him." I hesitated, but finally nodded. "Okay, let him in." Minutes later, Marcus appeared in the garden. I almost didn't recognize him. The confident, well-dressed man I had seen in the restaurant no longer existed. This Marcus wore worn-out jeans, a wrinkled shirt. He had lost weight. He had deep circles under his eyes. He looked defeated. "Hi, Mama," he said with a hoarse voice. Marcus stood there several yards away, as if he didn't know if he could get closer. "Thank you for seeing me. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me, to close this once and for all." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I came to apologize." "To apologize? Now that you lost everything?" "I know how it sounds. I know you think I only came because I'm in a bad situation. And maybe you're right. Maybe I am as selfish as you think." "It's not what I think, Marcus. It's what you are." His eyes filled with tears. "You're right. I am selfish. I am ungrateful. I am everything I shouldn't be. But Mama, I swear I regret it. I swear if I could turn back time, I would open that door on New Year's. I would hug you. I would let you stay." "But you can't turn back time, and I'm no longer the same woman who knocked on your door that night." "I know, and I'm glad. You look good, happy, better than I've seen you in years. Because finally I found people who value me, who see me as a person, not an obligation." Marcus looked down. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends." "Why did you send me that money months ago, $10,000, without explanation?" "Because despite everything, you are still my son, and I wanted you to have something, but I also wanted you to understand that I don't need you. that I can be fine without you." Mission accomplished, I understood, but that understanding came too late. There was a long silence. "Mama, I didn't come to ask you for money. I didn't come to ask you to save me. I just came to tell you I'm sorry, that I was wrong, that I was the worst son in the world, and that if someday in the future you can forgive me, I'll be waiting." I looked at him. I saw in his eyes something I hadn't seen before. Genuine remorse, or at least it seemed so. "Marcus, I forgive you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean things will go back to how they were. Because they can't. I know. I forgive you because I need peace. But I don't want you to be part of my life. At least not now. Maybe never." He nodded. Tears ran freely down his face. "I understand. And I respect that. Just take care, Mama. And be happy. You deserve it more than anyone." He turned to leave, but before reaching the gate, he stopped. "Mama, can I ask you one more thing?" "What?" "That night, when you were left on the street, what did you do? Where did you go?" I looked at Eleanor. She smiled. "I sat on a bench in the plaza, and I saw an older woman, barefoot, shivering in the cold. And I decided to help her. I gave her my coat, my shoes, my food, and that decision changed my life, because it turns out that woman wasn't who I thought, and her kindness was greater than mine." Marcus looked at Eleanor. He understood. "So, all this happened because you—" "Because your mother has a noble heart," Eleanor interrupted. "Something you lost along the way." Marcus didn't answer, just nodded and walked away. I watched him walk away through the garden. I watched Arthur escort him to the gate, and I felt nothing. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel rage. I only felt peace, because karma had done its work. Marcus had lost his job, his wife, his home, everything he valued more than his own mother. And I, whom he had rejected, now had it all. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. Poetic justice. "Are you okay?" Eleanor asked. "Yes, I'm fine. For the first time in a long time, I am at peace." That night, as I prepared for bed, I thought about everything that had happened that cold New Year's night. The rejection, the pain, Eleanor disguised as homeless, all the decisions that had brought me here. And I understood something. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us are the doors to the best. Marcus closing the door on me was the push I needed to find my true home, my true family. The universe has its way of balancing things, of rewarding kindness, of punishing ingratitude. Once, Marcus called me a fool for helping strangers. Years later, that very act of kindness gave me a life he could never give me. Life always collects its debts. Always. It has been 8 months since that New Year's night. 8 months since my son slammed the door in my face. 8 months since a barefoot elderly woman changed my life forever. Today is a quiet day in November, the 23rd to be exact. Eleanor and I are sitting in the garden like every afternoon, drinking coffee and watching the sunset. She has a photo album in her lap, pictures of her daughter Chloe, her husband Harrison, of a life that no longer exists but lives in her memory. "You know something, Viola? Sometimes I think Chloe sent me to you." "Why do you say that?" "Because the day I decided to do that test on New Year's was her birthday, December 26th. That day she would have turned 50, and I thought, I need to honor her memory by doing something good, by finding someone worthy of my legacy. And she found me you. I found you, a woman who had just been rejected by her own son, but who still had compassion to help a stranger." I smiled sadly. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone to that bench, if I hadn't seen you. But you did go. You did see me, and that makes all the difference." "You're right. A single decision, a single act of kindness, and my whole life changed. Miss Eleanor, can I ask you something? Of course, child. Aren't you afraid to leave me everything, to trust me so much? She looked at me with those wise eyes full of affection. Afraid? No, Viola. I have peace, because I know that when I am no longer here, my money will be in the hands of someone who will use it to do good, someone who won't squander it on vanities, someone who remembers where she comes from. I will keep my promise. I will create that foundation for women in honor of Chloe. I know. That is why I trust you. We sat in silence watching the sun hide behind the skyline. Viola, I have lived 75 years. I have had money and lost it. I have had love and lost it. I have had health and lost it. But there is one thing no one has been able to take from me: the certainty that kindness always returns. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the way you expect, but it always returns. She is right. I helped a stranger without expecting anything in return, and that stranger gave me a home, a family, a future, and my son, who had everything, lost it because he chose the wrong path. That is true justice. I have thought a lot about Marcus these months, not with rage, not with sadness, only with understanding. I understand that people change, that money can corrupt, that sometimes children forget where they come from, but I also understand that I cannot live waiting for him to change. I cannot put my happiness in the hands of someone who showed me he doesn't value me. Last week, Miss Pearl called me from town. Viola, your son was here asking for you. He wants to know where you are. And what did you tell him? That I don't know. That you left months ago and left no address. Thank you, Miss Pearl. Viola, are you okay? Are you sure? That boy looked bad, desperate. I am more than okay. I am at peace. And it is true. I am at peace because finally I understood that being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It doesn't mean accepting mistreatment because he's my son. It means giving love, yes. But it also means having dignity, boundaries, self-respect. Marcus will have to find his own way, learn his lessons, grow, and maybe someday when he is a different man, we can talk. But that day is not today, and maybe it will never come. And that's okay, because my life no longer revolves around him. It revolves around me, around Eleanor, around this new family we built together, around the plans we have, around the women we will help. The Chloe Foundation will open its doors in January. It will be a home for older women who are alone, who were abandoned, who need a second chance. We will give them shelter, food, emotional support, and above all, dignity. Because we all deserve dignity, regardless of our age, regardless of our past. Viola, what are you thinking about? Eleanor asks, pulling me from my thoughts. About everything that happened, about how a terrible night turned into the beginning of something beautiful. Life is like that. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters. And what really matters? Kindness, Viola. Only kindness. Everything else is temporary. Money comes and goes, beauty fades, health fails, but kindness remains. It engraves itself in hearts. It multiplies. It becomes a legacy. She is right. My legacy won't be the money I inherit. It will be the kindness I was able to share, the lives I will be able to change, the women who will find hope when everything seems lost. The sun has set completely. Stars begin to appear in the sky. Eleanor and I get up to go inside the house. Thank you, Miss Eleanor, I tell her, for everything, for seeing me, for choosing me, for giving me this life. No, Viola, thank you, for teaching me that good people still exist in this world, for restoring my faith in humanity. We hug, and in that hug, I feel something I hadn't felt in years: belonging, home, family. If this story can help a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If it can help someone understand that she is not obligated to accept mistreatment from anyone, not even her own family, then all this pain had a purpose. I learned that blood doesn't always make family. That true family is the one that chooses you, the one that values you, the one that sees you. I learned that it is never too late to start over, that at 61 you can have a completely different life, better, fuller. And I learned that kindness always, always returns. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it returns. So if you are going through a difficult time, if someone rejected you, if you feel invisible, if you think your life has no purpose anymore, remember my story. Remember that a closed door can be the beginning of something extraordinary. Remember that your kindness is never in vain. And remember that you always, always deserve dignity, respect, love. No matter your age, no matter your past, no matter how many times you have been hurt, you matter, and your story is still being written. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. Subscribe to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. One woman, one life lesson every day. God bless you. And until next time.